Okay, that's a panic diver. That's such a textbook panic diver that it almost looks like an instructor development course exercise. Ugh, throw the reg out of the mouth. Boop, 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 boop. Welcome to Dive Vibe. Oh. Welcome back to Dive Vibe. Welcome back to Dive Vibe. My name's Zach, and I'm a tech diver. Well, technically, I'm a technical rebreather instructor. I've been teaching scuba diving for over a decade, and before that, I was an Army CLS instructor. And today I'm going to be reacting to a video called Diving Disaster. Okay, so a lot happened in this video, and more than one thing went wrong, that's for sure. However, I'm not here to pass judgment on the professionals involved in this video. When I was in the Army, after every mission or exercise, we'd do an after-action review. And basically what we were doing was we were trying to see what we did well and what we could do better. So that's how I'd like to handle this video. We'll analyze the situation and the response, highlight the good things, and try to provide constructive feedback on the things that didn't go so well. I'm gonna do my best not to armchair dive this video. No one ever perfectly responds to a dive accident. There's always something to be learned, there's always room for improvement. We're all human, and there's no way that you can foresee every possible scenario. Wisdom comes from experience, and when you share that experience, that's called training. It all helps, but there's always more to learn. Again, I'm not here to pass judgment. I'm just here to offer my opinion of what I see in the video based on my training and experience. So let's get started. There's a lot to cover. All right, on the 3rd of March, 2012, 3 divers attempted to do their deep advanced dive on the SAS Good Hope of Millers Point, South Africa. Little did they know that a seemingly calm dive was about to go badly wrong. Okay, so let's see what we can see right off the bat. So, this is an advanced open water dive. It is specifically the deep dive of the advanced open water course. Now, I checked out this dive operator from the labels on their tanks and the markings on the wetsuits. It looks like they're called Duck and Dive or something like that. And as far as I can tell, they're not in business anymore. A Google search showed a spot in Cape Town that wasn't in business anymore called Duck and Dive. So I don't know if it's because of this incident. Could be, could not be. Dive shops open and close all the time. But anyway, so this is about 9 years ago, and they're doing their advanced open water. And from what I could tell, this was a PADI shop. So PADI is one of the agencies that I teach through, so I can teach this course. Let's see how things go. So, they're doing their advanced dive on a wreck. Now, I looked up this wreck, and it seems as though the sand is at 118 feet, and the wreck starts at 88 feet. As far as I can tell. I have never dove the site, so I could be wrong. Just did my best to look it up. Yeah, so let's keep watching. Oh, I remember what I was getting at. The maximum depth for the advanced deep dive is 100 feet. So it is possible on this dive site to go deeper than standards dictate for this dive. So let's keep watching. Alright, so they just did a back roll. It looked like just about everybody back rolled at the same time, which I think is a recipe for someone hitting their head on a tank. I'd probably have half the divers back roll at once, so it's like every other person back rolls, and that way you're a lot less likely for people to be right next to each other when they back roll. But anyway, so now they've got all these students in the water, and they're moving towards the descent line, starring Wasim, the guy who panics, moving towards the descent line. So this is good. Right off the bat, we've got a descent line here. We've got something for the divers to hold on to as they descend down to the wreck, because I'm looking and I'm seeing maybe not the best visibility. So it'd be nice to have something on the wreck so that you can descend. The fact that all the divers just left the boat at the same time indicates to me that they may be doing this as a live boat exercise, or a live boat dive, rather. Meaning the boat is not going to be tied up while they're doing the dive, which is fine. It just depends on your procedures. Here in Kona, we usually would do a dive like this tied up at a mooring, but we have that available to us. So let's watch for a little while. I'm doing a lot of talking. Okay, so starting with Seam, the guy who panics. Okay, cool. The head first descent. All right, I'm sorry. I said I was gonna let the video roll, but I mean, it's not like the worst sin, but if you have trouble descending when you get in the water, first thing you're going to want to do is grab on the collar of your wetsuit so you can flood it. That'll kind of push some of the air out, fill your suit up with water, displace some of that air that's stuck in there. Really make sure your BCD is deflated, so hold the inflator up high and hold that button, kind of lean to your right so that the air can go up to the highest point, right? Going to let yourself sink down. You're going to want to exhale all the air out of your lungs so that you can sink. When you do your weighting test, you hold a normal breath and float at eye level. So you shouldn't be able to sink if you're properly weighted until you exhale. Okay, so that's how you deal with being perfectly weighted and finding it difficult to descend. Doug, the guy who bursts his eardrum. Now, I believe Doug is the one filming. And Nikki, the girl who keeps everyone calm. We'll see. We'll see if Nikki keeps everyone calm. Alright, so we're making our descent. It looks like, I'm assuming this is Doug. Doug is right next to the line, but I'm seeing a whole lot of divers not on the line to the wreck. And, okay, that was fast. So, we're starting to see the wreck come into view over here on the left-hand side. And suddenly, this dude's eardrum, she gone. Okay, so what does that mean? So it means that he descended too quickly without being able to equalize, and his eardrum has perforated. At least so he says. He's not a physician. He can't diagnose himself with that. But it's neither here nor there. So the eardrum is gone. So what does that mean? Probably vertigo. I'm guessing we're going to get some vertigo here in a second, which can make it difficult for you to tell what's up or down. It's just extremely disorienting. It can make you nauseous. All right, let's see what happens. You don't say. You got bad vertigo and everything started spinning. Seems to still be moving along, continuing the dive. I personally would not still be descending, but I'm also not at the level of stress that this person is at. Okay, so it must be cold here, because I'm seeing two-piece wetsuits, I'm seeing steel tanks, and I'm seeing lots of weight on the belts. Lots and lots of weight on the belt. So when you have a big, thick wetsuit to keep you warm like that, and then you have these steel tanks and these weights, the deeper you go, the more that wetsuit is going to compress, and the more buoyancy you're going to lose. With that much lead and that much wetsuit compression at, if they're at 90 feet now that they're on the wreck, I would be worried that the BCD might not be able to lift that much lead, meaning if you have a BCD failure, you might have to ditch your weight, which is not my favorite thing to do, because then you've got difficulty ascending. You're probably going to have an uncontrolled ascent, which means you're going to go up faster and risk decompression illness. So, all right, let's keep going. Had no idea it was up or down, had to focus on the other divers. So if you ever find yourself experiencing vertigo from a perforated tympanic membrane, your eardrum, you want to follow the bubbles. Your bubbles are going to be going up, and if you have water in your mask, look at where the water is. If it's down here by your nose, your head up. If it's up here by your forehead, your head down. And it sounds like, how could I possibly be that unaware of my position? If you have, vertigo like that, it's extremely disorienting. Okay. That's a cool wreck. There's a lot of Nice soft corals on it, which they're kicking. Still there doing the dive. Somebody's messing with their camera. If that person's part of the course, they should not have a camera. I guess it depends. Maybe they could be allowed to have a camera, but I wouldn't allow it. He signals to Wasim there is a problem. Since Wasim ends up being the guy who panics, this is a little bit of the blind leading the blind, but at least they're close enough that he could signal his buddy, and his buddy turned around to see what was wrong with him once he said he had a problem, and they go up a little bit. Excellent. All right, but at this point, the instructor hasn't noticed that there's something going wrong with David, but David has also not signaled the instructor. At the same time, on a deep diver course, if you read, or a deep dive in the advanced open water course, if you read, it specifically says that you need to be monitoring your students directly while they're descending, meaning you watch them, right? So make sure that there's nothing happening to them. Like I said, I really don't want to armchair dive this dive professional, but I don't think that's that great. Should have been watching. All right, let's keep going. He then knocks my reg out of my mouth. Not pleasant when you have vertigo. Yeah, that's not pleasant at any time. Why did he knock the reg out of the mouth? I'm assuming it's just an accident. Look at all that lead. Holy mother. They're having to fend just to keep off the bottom. They don't even have basic buoyancy control. Okay, so now it's sped up. So at this point, we're about 3 minutes into the dive. 3 minutes in the dive. The buddy, it looks like the buddy just descended. The instructor's now focused on the diver with the ear problem. And now it's really speeding up. So he's trying to fix that diver, trying to figure out what's going on. So more than likely what's going on right now is the diver gave the instructor this hand signal. Something's wrong with my ear, which is exactly the hand signal that you'd probably think to give if you'd gone through a PADI open water course. And it is. It's the correct hand signal. The only problem is you see this hand signal so much when you're a dive professional, like just leading divers all the time. People are going to say, something's wrong with my ear. Right? So then we just walk you through the clearing process again. You know, we say, let's go up a little bit. Let's gently equalize. Let's kind of rock our head side to side to try to stretch out those eustachian tubes, get things moving. You can swallow, wiggle the jaw. All these things we're going to remind you will not help you if you have a perforated eardrum. If you have a hole in your eardrum, it's not going to make things better. It could be painful. I don't know. Never had a perforated eardrum. Thank goodness. Cool. That's probably what's going on. That's probably what that instructor thinks is going on. And pretty soon the diver's just going to keep telling them there's something wrong, there's something wrong. And then the person's they're going to send the diver up either with a buddy, or they'll take the diver up, or maybe they'll send them up on their own. It wouldn't be my choice from that deep of a dive when it's a student. I want supervision on my students at all times. But guaranteed, if the instructor didn't see him flipped upside down and confused, they're not going to figure out that he has a perforated eardrum until they're back on the boat. It's just that I can just see it. That's the confusion for sure. All right. Never buy that reel right there that the guy's got hanging from him. It is a piece of junk. All right, so he fist bumps him. Universal sign for good job from an instructor. Let's see. Fist bump. Give him the fist bump. There it is. Good job. Okay, so he gave him the fist bump. That, to me, means that the diver gave the instructor some kind of idea that maybe his ears are okay now. He might have said okay or something like that. The instructor says, right on, good job, let's keep going. At this point, he's like, oh, thank God, we can finally continue the dive. I just want to get this done. One other thing that I couldn't see earlier is I could never see his buddy's gauge, air gauge. And that may come into play. Not that I need to see his gauge, but I was hoping to catch a glimpse of it, just to see how fast he was going through his air. You'll see why. All right. So this instructor is like, where are my students? Look for our boy on the top right of the screen. Okay, that must be him right there. All right, the instructor's approaching the rest of the students. She says, I don't know what's wrong, or I don't know where so-and-so is. All right, you go up. You go up. That is exactly what he's saying. He says, okay. So he says, okay, I'll go up. And then he doesn't. He stays right here. Okay, that's a panic diver. And I think... yeah, that's such a textbook panic diver that it almost looks like an instructor development course exercise. Throw the heck out of the mouth. I'm sure, I don't mean to laugh at this person because they're probably very stressed out, but they didn't die, so it's funny. All right, coming up to him. Oh, I missed it. Go back just a little bit more. You go up. All right, he's freaking out. Comes up to the diver. I thought I saw... right there. Right there. Okay, right there in the bottom left corner of the screen. Watch what happens. Right there. So that diver is giving this hand signal. They're forgetting the most important hand signal, which is I'm out of air, and just doing this one, which means can we share air, right? This one tends to be a lot more noticeable, and that's the one you want to start with, because a lot of times once you give someone the I'm out of air signal, they're just going to start trying to give you an alternate air source because that's how they were trained. You probably won't even get to the point where you're doing this. These situations tend to be stressful, and that is what is going on with this diver. They're reverting to their lowest form of training when they're stressed out. So he's totally forgotten this, but for some reason in his training, this sticks out. So that's what he's doing. Full on panic. The other diver, let's see how the other diver reacts. Nikki, I think it was. All right, Nikki produces her alternate air source. Fantastic work. Nikki also seems to have a better idea of how to control her buoyancy compared to the other divers. Okay. Now this is a crucial point. This is a crucial point right here. So what's going on is that the instructor is pulling that diver's alternate regulator out of his mouth. Not pulling it out, but offering the instructor's alternate air source. He wants him to switch. Why does he want him to switch? Because I definitely don't want someone else sharing air with one of my students during a course unless it's an exercise. I want to be the one doing it. I'm more than likely going to have better air consumption than this student, so I can make my tank last longer. This person is going to be sucking down air like crazy, so the likelihood of these two divers becoming out-of-air divers is very high in that situation. So while that diver is an open water diver and fully trained to share air with another diver, the instructor definitely wants to be in control of the situation. So that's good. You might say, is it good to switch regulators on the panic diver? I think he offered it. It looked pretty smooth, the exchange, so I'm okay with it. Oof. What's happened? He ran out of air. Deeper than they'd ever been. And they weren't getting enough attention paid to them. This potentially could have been solved with less weight. There's a lot of weight on that belt. Big, heavy tank. This potentially could have been solved with less weight, or reminding the student to add some air to their BCD, because more than likely having to swim off the bottom the whole time was stressing them out, coupled with their first deep dive, coupled with the low visibility, coupled with the uncomfortable wetsuit. All these things make for a bad situation right off the bat. So it's kind of no wonder that they had an accident. You'd really have to have good control over your divers in this situation, and a smaller class. It actually says in the instructor manual that you should lower your student to instructor ratio in poor visibility or bad conditions. You're supposed to use your best judgment. We then started to ascend. Wasim with the instructor, me with Nikki. All right, so at least they're ascending in buddy pairs. At one point, Wasim made a break for the surface. The instructor caught his fin. Yeah, so when a diver bolts, you need to stop that ascent as quickly as possible, because you don't want them to head towards the surface at an unsafe rate, 60 feet per minute, 30 feet per minute, depending on what you subscribe to. You want to make sure that they don't make a break for it, because they could end up with decompression illness from a rapid ascent, or a lung overexpansion injury, or any number of things. So the diver or the instructor would want to catch their fins, bring it back down, relax them, and then bring them up at a safe rate, if at all possible. All right, we're back at the boat. And here we see, as David gets on, Nikki comes to check on him, and his ear is bleeding. So he's definitely got probably a ruptured eardrum. And check out how Wasim looks when they pull him out of the water. Straight up drug out of the water. He lived. Don't worry. Yep, she just said there's blood. And he says, I can't hear anything. So, it seems that Wasim ran out of air in the middle of the dive. It could be that he ran out of air. It could be that he thought he was out of air. Could be that he was just panicked. A lot of times, divers will yank their reg out of their mouth just because they're panicked. But it does seem like he ran out of air. The video was sped up at one point, so I imagine the whole dive was somewhere like 5-10 minutes long. And that's definitely enough time for a new diver to suck down a tank at 100 feet or deeper. The air goes so much faster down there. So that's possible. It also could be that he just thought he was out of air because his regulator was breathing not that great. I did hear a lot of noise from the regulators that didn't sound all that healthy. Maybe they're a little bit lower end. Maybe they're not quite serviced as often as they should be. They didn't give him oxygen. This is the part that I have a pretty big problem with. If you have oxygen and you have a diver with a rapid ascent, you need to give it to them, right? If you don't do that, first of all, you can never hurt somebody by giving them oxygen. I mean, pulmonary oxygen toxicity or something like that, but that's not dangerous, especially not on land. And it can do a lot of good. It definitely does way more good than harm. So you need to get, and plus, if you get taken to court over this, you're really going to wish that you'd given them oxygen, because they'll say you had oxygen on your boat and you didn't give it to them. Why? And then you're going to say, because it's expensive. It's not going to look good. He doesn't remember the dive. Wow. He doesn't remember. I made this dive so you can see what can happen on a normal, relaxed, everyday dive. That didn't seem normal or relaxed. Hope you could take something out of it. We definitely learned some stuff. So that's good. Wasim is lucky to be around and diving today. We all continue to take courses and are now soon going to be dive masters. But nothing you can learn from a textbook could prepare us for what took place on that day. So, a lot you can learn from a textbook would prepare you for that day, unfortunately. So, just real quickly, kind of summarize everything. So, visibility was low. The dive was deep. This seems like it might have been one of their first dives with the instructor. The instructor probably would have known to keep a better eye on them if he'd had another dive with them. And that is in the manual. That's what you're supposed to do. You should evaluate the diver's experience before you take them deep. And then while you're taking them on that deep adventure dive, you need to make sure that you're continually monitoring them directly. You're supposed to descend in a way that you can see them. A lot of times when I'm doing this dive, I'll be swimming backwards, watching my students, just kind of reverse frog kicking, back kicking. So that wasn't great. The other thing that I saw that wasn't really that good was that they didn't give oxygen. I think that is a no-brainer. You should definitely give oxygen. As far as stuff that went well, the buddies were right there to help each other. That was good. And once the instructor realized what was going on, took control of the situation, made sure that he took the compromised diver and paid them direct attention, and then brought the whole group up, which is good. So that's good. Good control of the class. Other than that, I hope you learned something. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button because it really helps me out. And if you'd like to see more of this stuff, subscribe right down there and hit that bell notification icon so you're notified when my videos come out. Thanks so much for diving with me today, and I'll see you in the water. So you may or may not know this, but I've got a little sticker collection going on my surfboard over here. I found this thing out in the middle of the ocean when I first moved to Hawaii, just on a dive charter randomly, and I've kind of been keeping it around as a decoration. I've recently decided to stick all my dive stickers all over it. We got the new Dive Vibe stickers, woo! And I've actually got, hold on, back. Oh. So I've actually got Dive Vibe stickers now. And that's sick. Big fan. Focus, focus. There we go. Yeah, got a lot of them. So got one, had one big one, put it on there. I'm gonna send out the rest of these to people. If you want one, then send me a sticker from your local dive organization or dive shop, like I just got from Oren in California. North Coast Divers, apparently this is a now defunct dive club that he's got a lot of fond memories of. So we're definitely gonna stick this on the board over here. Beautiful sticker. One of the first ones that I've had sent to me, so it's gonna get a good spot about right there. I'm gonna run out of space faster than I think. If you don't have a sticker to send to me and you still want a Dive Vibe sticker, don't worry. There's one other way that you can get one of these bad boys mailed to you. You need to head down to the description, click on my Patreon, and support me on Patreon. And I will send you one of these stickers, and you'll also have access to my more educational videos. So check that out if that's something you're interested in. I'll see you in the water.